Lord, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. In Jesus' name, amen. Hi y'all, this is So Blessed. Welcome to the Blessed Place. How y'all doing? It has been a while and it has been an emotional roller coaster since my last video. I look back and I think my last video was October 20th and today is November 1st. So been about 11 days or so. And since that time, some of you may know, those who follow me on Twitter or on Facebook, you may know, but those who don't know, and maybe news to you, since my last video, my father passed away. My father had congestive heart failure, along with a lot of other things like high blood pressure, diabetes, but what he died from was congestive heart failure, and his heart was working at 10% capacity. Actually, we thought our dad's heart was working at a higher capacity for years, but when he was in the hospital on his deathbed, he wrote that his heart had been at 10% capacity for the last 3 years, which is something I think he kept from us. But we know that my dad had a really hard time, I would say the last month or so before he passed away. So on October 22nd, which was a Monday, my dad passed away. I'm going to try to do this without crying. My dad passed away, and I had gone, my dad was, the ambulance had taken him away. He wasn't feeling well the day before, and the ambulance had taken him away, and then I went to the hospital that day. But then the next day I went to the hospital to visit him, and when I got there, Denise and my brother, my dad's son, Fennell, was there, and I'm not gonna drag this out, but I visited with my dad for a while. He was caring, and he knew who I was, and he knew who we were, and it's so funny. My dad is just like the joy of our life. My dad is just so funny. I mean, any humor, or my boisterous laugh, or my big grin, my big smile, all of that comes from my dad. My dad is just, anyway, I'm not going to get into all that. But even with my dad being on oxygen, 10% heart working, Denise was holding his hand, and she's like, "Daddy, if you can understand me, squeeze my hand." I mean, his eyes was open, but he was just like kind of staring though into space. And she's like, "Daddy, if you could know who I am or know what's going on, squeeze my hand." And he squeezed her hand so hard because that's the way my dad used to do us. It's like he used to squeeze our knuckles until we cry uncle or cry daddy. So we just bust out laughing because it's like, oh my God, even at this stage in my dad's transition, he was still funny. But anyways, okay, so I just visited with my dad for a while and then left home. And as soon as I got home, 20-minute drive from the hospital, jumped in the shower. My daughter says, "Mom, we got to get back to the hospital. Daddy's calling for everybody." Well, she said they're calling. Well, she said Dad is calling for everybody, and I thought she meant the hospital, but my dad actually called for his family, so he knew it was the end. And we got there, and maybe an hour later, my dad passed away. It's kind of, I don't want to say bittersweet or bitter. I don't know. Bittersweet, I would say, is that at least I got to be there. I got to be there earlier that day, and then I got to be there. He knew he was transitioning, and he called for his family. And the sweetest thing is, he got to tell my mom that he loved her. And my mom wrote him on a piece of paper, "I've always loved you." She said it and she wrote it just so he could see it. "I've always loved you," and I kept that paper. But anyway, y'all, I named this video, "Funny Thing About Death." There's really nothing, and I've learned, there's nothing, not very much funny about death. But the reason I named it that is because death teaches you a lot of things. And that's why I say funny thing about death, because I learned a lot in this. So I wanted to share 10 things that I learned about death. First of all, I want to thank everybody, like I said again, for their kindness, their condolences. And a lot of you didn't know, but some of you did know. So I thank you for your condolences that you've already extended. And I know my beautiful, blessed ones are probably going to extend even more condolences. So I thank you for the condolences that you are going to extend. I hope that doesn't sound conceited or something. I don't know. But I know you all are so good and so sweet and so kind. Okay, so these are 10 things that I learned. I learned so much, but I summed it up into 10. First of all, with today's social media, word spreads fast. That's one thing that I learned. To this day, I don't know how it got on Facebook or how it spread so fast that just virtually minutes after my dad passed away, people were coming to the hospital. And it was like, wow, how did you know? And somebody said, I saw it on Facebook. And we're trying to figure out who Facebooked it. But anyway, I mean, didn't bother us, but it just amazed us that it happened that quickly. I would say of everything I'm going to say that what I learned most is how now to empathize with people who have lost loved ones. I always had sympathy in my heart for my friends or relatives who lost loved ones. Always sympathize, but I didn't have a point of reference to know how to really empathize until my dad passed away, because I really had, my dad is the closest person I ever had pass away. My grandma passed away when I was about 12. And of course that hurt, but I was 12 and that was my dad's mom. And then my mom's dad passed away. I was older then, my 20s or 30s. But of course that hurt. But you know, that was my granddad. That was my mom's dad. But when my dad passed away, oh my God, that's the closest it ever hit home. And I started thinking back to the different people who in my life who are close to me, who had lost someone. I think about my aunt who lost 2 of her daughters. I think about, you know, one of my best friends who within, I would think, a 3-year period lost her mom, her dad, and her brother, all within a 3-year period. I think about another one of my best friends who her dad recently passed. I would say maybe, I think they just celebrated like his 1-year anniversary of his death. And the reason I name these different people or incidents is because in their passing, I started thinking, in my father's passing, I started thinking back to how callous or indifferent I probably acted in those situations. Totally unintentional. Of course, I'm sure I called them. Like, remember, I called my girlfriend and told her, you know, how sorry I was. I might have visited. I don't know if I even visit. I can't even remember visiting her house when her parents passed away and her brother passed away. I know I went to the funeral. My girlfriend, one of my girlfriends, I don't even think, I didn't even go to her dad's funeral. I called her and just gave my condolences. But now I'm thinking about how awesome people were to us and how comforting people were to us and how good my girlfriends were to me, and as opposed to how cold and callous I was. And like I said, totally unintentional, but over analyzing, just that analytical thinking of, well, they probably have family, you know, they're probably bombarded with family members, and I don't want to get in the way, and I don't know what to say, and I don't know how to act, and I don't know how to what words of comfort could I possibly offer, or I don't want to crowd their space, and you know, just over analyzing. And now I realize how comforting and how thoughtful and how kind and how loving of a gesture it is when people actually take the time out to come and see you and take care of you and offer a hug or just sit and hold your hand. Think about my cousin one of my cousins, the cousin that I mentioned that she lost two of her sisters, and her son. She lost two sisters, and her son just had a year ago. He passed. And when she heard the word that my dad had passed, and my dad only passed like I said, maybe 15 minutes. I don't know how she got the word, but when she got the word, she came to the hospital. Was still there in the hospital, and we stayed at the hospital about 2 hours after my dad passed because we're waiting on Danica, because all of us had got a chance to be with my dad and see my dad, but Danica, who moved down to Boca, didn't get a chance to see him before he passed. So we're waiting on her. We asked people to leave my dad in the room, so Danica couldn't make it there. So about 2 hours after my dad passed, we're still sitting there. My cousin is sitting there just holding our hands, especially holding my sister Deborah's hand, because Deborah was the one who was, I would say, most emotional, most physically emotional, and she barely said much, but she held my sister's hand, and just that gesture, I can't begin to tell you all what that meant to me, and I'm sure to my sister and to our family. So a lot of times when we don't know what to do, what I learned from this is just be there. Just hold their hand. Even if you just hold it in their hand. You don't have to go, you don't have to talk much. You don't have to talk about you remember when your son passed, or when your daddy passed, and it'll be okay. You don't have to say any of that stuff. To me, my personal opinion, it's best not to even say all that stuff. Just let them know that I understand. You're going to be okay. Or don't say anything. Just hold their hand. Just rub their shoulder. Just give them a hug. And that's what my cousin, Rebecca, if you ever see this video, my family don't watch my videos, but if you ever saw this video, I want her to know that that gesture was just awesome. And I'm sorry that I wasn't there for you when your son passed away, when your two sisters. I mean, I was there, but not in that capacity. You know, I was just kind of like in and out. Hey, how you doing? You doing all right? Okay, oh, I'm so sorry. Boom, you know, the general stuff. But she was there. And I so appreciate that. Another thing I learned is that almost everybody told us, if there's anything I can do, let me know. I know it was so well-meaning, and I appreciate it. But I'm telling you what I really appreciated. One of my girlfriends, I wasn't even at the house. I wasn't even there. I went to my mom's and dad's house, where was the central location, meeting point where we met at every day after my dad passed away. And one day I come to my mom's house, and they were like, "Oh, you just missed Cheryl." Now Cheryl is my best friend, is one of my best friends, but she came and she brought half of Costco. It wasn't Costco, maybe it was BJ's or Sam's or Costco, but she brought paper cups, paper towels, plates, drinks, juices, all kinds of things. And she came in, she gave her condolences, she gave her hugs, and she let us know if there's anything else that she could do for us, to let her know. And my mom said she was there maybe 10 minutes. And I'm saying that because I know, like I said, there are a lot of well-meanings if there's anything I can do. But I'm telling you, there are some things that you can do that you don't have to wait for the family to ask you. Because sometimes the family don't want to ask you. They don't want to say, well, can you bring us some food? Can you bring us some drinks? But what are some of the things you can do? And like I said, I'm learning for myself. I've just learned this for myself. Because before this, I've never brought anyone an ounce of drink. Well, since I've been married, my husband will think of these things because he's very thoughtful in that way. So yeah, I've gone with my husband because he's remembered to take a family this or take a family that. But now I've learned for myself not to wait when there is death in the family, not to wait for and tell the person if there's anything I can do. I know I'm going to go to that store and I'm going to think of some things that I know that you're going to need, and I'm going to take it to you, give you my condolences, hug you, hold your hand, maybe stay there for a few minutes, and I'm gone. And come back and check on you later or another day or sometime after the funeral. But things that they're going to need paper plates. They're going to need paper cups. They're going to need paper towels. They're going to need plastic silverware. They're going to need drinks. They're going to need water. Don't forget water, the bottled water. They're going to need food. You know that yes, of course you're going through this emotional thing, but you still eat. Or at least we did. It was so funny. It was so funny, y'all. It's funny and it's not funny. It's funny or sad. I don't know, whichever one you want to call it. But it was funny to us that y'all, maybe 10-15 minutes after my dad passed away, and we were all just like emotional basket cases. And the hospital has like a hospitality group. And I forgot what they call it, condolence group or something, but in the midst of the family dealing with a death in the family, they came and brought a cart of stuff, and they brought it was so beautiful. It had fruit, you know, strawberries and different kinds of fruit, and had sweet tea and coffee and water and all kinds of cookies. And y'all, 15 minutes after we're emotional wrecks, y'all, we eating off this cart. We eating cookies and different stuff off this cart. And Derica, my daughter, she is so hilarious. But she just tell it like it is, but she's hilarious when she does it. And she's like, I bet we're the only family who just experienced a major death in the family, and we're sitting here eating cookies off the cart. But yes, you know, you still eat. And after that day, after my dad passed, of course, nobody's cooking. And I don't know what we ate. I don't even know if we ate. We probably just ate those cookies and stuff that day. Then the next day, we were at my mom's house all day and we didn't eat. You know, we were just like, we were getting hungry towards the end of the day. And we just, I think when we dispersed later on that day, we all went our separate ways and we found something to eat. But by day 3, people start bringing us in food. So my suggestion is, maybe not the day of the death, but by the next day, somebody think of the family and bring them some food. I don't know, bring them. And another thing I love too, when people did start bringing us food, people start bringing different varieties. Some people cooked and brought us some good old cooked food, and then some people said, you know what, I'm gonna think of giving them something different. Somebody brought us some like Captain D's, which is like seafood, and somebody brought us. Somebody said, well, I'm sure the kids would like something different, because it's like 13 grandkids. So then they brought pizzas and chips and cookies, and anyways, yeah, I'm on that point forever. Yeah, even in death, y'all know I love food. But anyways, but my main thought is, I know it's very well meaning when you say, if there's anything I can do, let me know. But there's things you can do just automatically. Don't wait for the family to ask you, because most people don't want to ask you, will you please feed us? Will you please bring us some food? Will you please bring us some drink? Although we did do it. My mom said, well, Deidre, because one of my best friends, she had already said, Miss Cat, if there's anything I can do. So my mom says, Deidre, Tammy said if there's anything she can do, let her know. And she was like, we don't have any food, you know, for tomorrow. Can you ask her if she'll bring us some food? Well, she said either Thursday or Friday. So can you ask her if she'll bring us some food either Thursday or Friday, whichever works for her? So I called her. And I felt so odd. You know, I never asked my friend for, I mean, I've been knowing her for 45 years. And I've never asked her for anything. And I felt so odd. But I was like, okay, this is a different type of circumstance. So I asked her if she would bring us, and she no problem. And I mean, and she had it there. She brought all kinds of goodies. So, yeah, though well-intentioned, let me know if you need anything. Just do it. Don't wait till they ask. Number 4, oh my goodness, this is important. Yes, go by, visit, give your condolences, maybe sit and talk for a little bit, but don't overstay your welcome. And don't go at the oddest hours of the day. Don't go too early and don't go too late. I can't tell you what's too early and what's too late, but maybe if you know the pattern, the living pattern or of the family. But what I say is don't go before sun up and don't come visit after sundown. Yo, we had to tell people, we had to make our mom go lay down because my mom was already exhausted taking care of. She'd been taking care of my 86-year-old grandmother for years. She lives with my mom. She's been taking care of my grandma for years. And my mom was taking care of my dad that last month. So my mom, I know she's totally exhausted. Even 3 days before my dad passed away, 911 was called to come to my mom's house 3 times. Twice for my dad and once for my grandma because she had low blood sugar. So I know my mom was totally exhausted before my dad passed. But I know she was totally exhausted after he passed, even with all the emotional stuff. So we had to have our mom to go lay down. And people come into the house 9 and 10 and 10:30 at night. And I'm like, no, they are not ringing this doorbell 10 o'clock at night. Okay, so when you come, first of all, I say come before after the sunrise, and come after. Don't come after the sunset. And when you do come, don't come sit and stay for hours. I remember one couple came, and he left his wife, and he was like, oh, I'm gonna go home and do whatever. I'll come back and get you later on. And I'm looking like, later on? I mean, they had already sat there. They'd already been there like an hour. About an hour, hour and a half. And he said, I'll come back and get you later on. And I'm like, oh my God, later on? Are you kidding me? And at this time, we probably had, not to mention, you know, we are a pretty big family. So not to mention 12 grandkids for the 60, not to mention about 17 of us, just with the sisters, the brother-in-laws, my mom, my grandma, and grandkids, about 18 of us. Then it's about 10 other people in the house, just visiting, families, friends, visiting. And I'm like, wow. I mean, believe me, I am so glad my dad was so well loved. He was so well loved. He wasn't just a joy in the apple of our eye. He was just so well loved. And I appreciate the love that people extended. But I'm just saying, come on, people. People grieving, people in and out of the house. Don't come stay for hours and hours and hours. Number 5, when it comes to making the funeral arrangements, do it your way. I'm telling you, we did it our way. People may have talked. People may be still talking. People may be scratching their head. People can say whatever they want to say, but we did it our way. And we did it, and we had a lot of people who complimented that we did it our way. And what I mean by we did it our way, we did not have a wake or a viewing. We had the viewing that we did have was on the day of the funeral, an hour before the funeral. So if you wanted to view my dad, you had to be at the funeral an hour before and view. But other than that, we had no wake, and we had no repast. Anybody who don't know what a repast is, that's the food celebration that they have after a funeral. We had no repast. There was for several different reasons, but number one, it was so many people at that funeral. It was just too much to try to make food arrangements, and who was going to cook, and who was going to cater, and who was going to bring what, and who was going to be on the cleanup committee, and all of that stuff. It was just too much, and then we were all exhausted. And you talking about adding another 3-4 hours to our day. We opted out for the repast, and people were like, because I don't know about other races, but black folks, that is the epitome of craziness. Not to eat after a funeral? Oh my God, what is wrong with those people? No food after funeral? No, we had no food after the funeral. After the funeral, we went to the cemetery, and after the cemetery, the limos took us back to my mom's house. We were at my mom's house 10-15 minutes, and we whisked away. Brought my mom to my house, and everybody came to my house, and we had food and leftovers here. Like I say, people probably scratching their head, no wake. People were probably like upset, no repast, but we did it our way, and we are absolutely fine with the way we did it. And like I said, a lot of people complimented the way we did it and said, I compliment and commend you all. You did it your way. So if this tragedy should touch your family, and you all want to do something that's different, even on our program, we stuck to the program. We told the officiating person to stick to the program. No, because my daddy was so well loved, y'all, we could have been there another hour or two if everybody who wanted to say something would have gotten up and said something. We had 3 people, somebody who knew him from his church, who spoke about him as a pastor, someone who spoke about him as a friend, who my dad's best friend for 50 years, and someone who knew him as a neighbor, my dad's neighbor for 46 years. And those were the only three people who spoke. My niece, Danita, she sang so beautifully. And a cousin of mine sang Never Would Have Made It. And, we had the eulogy. We didn't have all of these people just popping up. And again, like I say, I don't know about at other funerals, but at African American funerals, people just want to pop up and say all kinds of things, because they feel like he was my favorite uncle. I was his favorite niece. He was my favorite friend. He was this. I remember this time when he helped me do that. So everybody could have said some wonderful things about my dad, but like I say, we did the funeral. We did everything our way. So I just encourage you. I strongly encourage you to do it your way. If you want to do the traditional, that's fine. If you want to do something non-traditional, that's fine too. It's your family's decision and it's your loved one. Something else I thought was important, that if you could, in the midst of all of this that's going on, if you can get a little exercise in. I only say that because exercise really helps to keep your body healthy and keep your mind a little healthy and a little clear. And the reason I say that is because, not that I'm one which I'm sure you can tell, I'm no fitness guru, and not that I was doing all this exercise before my dad passed away. But after my dad passed away, for a period of probably about 8 days, I did nothing but wake up, shower, go to my mom's, and sit. Wake up, go to bed, wake up, shower, and I started to feel it. The emotional stress that was on me. I was emotionally drained. I was physically drained. I hadn't moved my body. I was eating all kinds of stuff that the people, different stuff that the people had brought for us to eat. And I just felt terrible. And I didn't know if I was feeling terrible. I didn't know if the emotional was taking over or the physical. I didn't know what it was. But just in the last 3 days that I've been moving my body, that I've been going to the gym, and Derek and I have been walking, I feel so much better. So I'm just saying, if you can, get a little walking in, a little treadmill exercise or something in the midst. Maybe, I'm sure, maybe not the first 2 or 3 days that, you receive the terrible news. But sometime thereafter, if you can't, try to get some type of movement in your body, because you're going to start to feel so lethargic and emotionally drained if you don't. And just moving your body, it's amazing how much better I feel in the last 3 days just moving my body. Number 7, grieve the way that feels authentic to you. We all grieve differently. And some people maybe feel that they should act a certain way when they're hit with such terrible news. Like I say, we were all devastated when we heard, because we knew, like I said, we knew our dad was bad off. I was thinking to myself, my dad don't have many more years. I was thinking my dad maybe have another year or two. I just had no idea he had another hour. And so when we heard the news, because we were all in the room, and then the nurses asked us to leave the room because they wanted to give him like a chest x-ray. And we walked out of the room, and literally 2 minutes later, I don't know if my dad, because when we were in the room, we're all emotional and, and talking to him, and he was trying to talk to us. And I don't know if he took that opportunity when we all left to say, Lord, take me on home. I don't know. That's just my assessment. Is he said, okay, they're all out of the room. They're not standing here, grieving. Lord, I'm ready. Take me on home. And I feel like that's just what the Lord did. And so because it was just so abrupt, our emotion, we were just overwhelmed when the doctor ran in there and told us that, or the nurse, technician, whoever it was, said that his heart had stopped. But we handled, but thereafter we handled it different ways. Denise immediately left the hospital. It was not even maybe a minute after the man said that my dad's heart stopped, Denise was gone. And that's the way she had to handle it. And there is no judgment upon that. That is the way she had to handle it. Deborah was totally emotionally distraught, and like I said, my cousin was there holding her hand and consoling her. I was thinking was in disbelief because I just like I had to go see him, and I'm just like, Daddy, wake up, Daddy, Daddy, and I'm like, I'm like, he's still breathing. I can still feel breath, and they're like, no, there's no breath, and I'm like, yes, I can still feel breath on my hand, and they're trying to tell me no, and I'm just like, they're mistaken. But anyway, my whole point is grieve however authentic to you. There immediately after there's gonna be times, in the days after, or the hours or days or weeks after, there are gonna be times where you're going to laugh. I mean, even that day, I think we laughed. As a matter of fact, we did laugh when, like I say, 15 minutes later after my dad passed, and they brought this cart of cookies, and some of us, not all of us, but some of us are partaking from this tray, and my daughter says, only us could eat 15 minutes after our loved one has passed. And some of us just bust out laughing. And somebody would have looked at that and thought we were just crazy. Just a second ago, we were all boo-hooing. And now we bust out laughing at my daughter's comment. But the more I think about it, that's my dad. That is what my dad gave us. That is what he instilled in us. That is in our DNA. My dad was so funny, and he was hilarious. He was joyous. He was gregarious. He was loving. He was a breath of fresh air, and that's in our DNA, and that's what's authentic to us. Just today, I went and ate. Got me some food. Went to Crispers and had me a lovely sandwich and some tomato bisque soup, and this meal just gave me life. And I drove home, and I got in the driveway, and I just bust out crying, thinking about my dad. I just had a breakdown in the car just a little bit before I turned on this camera. I think because I was thinking about, this video and what I was going to say, and I just had a breakdown. But that was authentic for me. Grieve whatever is authentic for you. Don't let somebody tell you you shouldn't be laughing, or don't let anybody tell you you shouldn't be crying, or don't let anybody tell you it's too soon to cry, it's too soon to laugh, or it's too soon, or it's been long enough that you shouldn't be crying anymore, or it's been years, or it's been, weeks, months, years, whatever. You grieve. We all grieve differently, like I said before, and you grieve what's authentic to you. And if you want to laugh, laugh. If you want to cry, if you want to be alone, if you want to be around people, whatever works for you. But don't let your idea or what you think your definition of grief, or what other people's definition of grief is, don't let that determine how you act, or whether you smile or don't smile, laugh or don't laugh, enjoy life or don't enjoy life, eat or don't eat. How can I eat? My loved one just passed. If you hungry and want to eat, eat. And if you don't feel like eating, don't let anybody force you to eat. You do have to keep up some substance in your body, but you know what I mean. So just be authentic in your grief. Don't be fake about it, and don't try to compensate according to what somebody else thinks you should be acting like. And number 8 is basically the same, so I won't belabor that point. But I was saying in point number 8 was emotions are unpredictable. Just like I said when I drove up here and just had a breakdown thinking about my dad. So emotions are unpredictable, and know that. And don't think that you're crazy. Don't think that you're crazy because you were just laughing at some TV show, and then some commercial came on and it reminded you of your loved one, and then you bust out crying. Emotions are so unpredictable, and don't think that you're crazy just because your body is reacting to those emotional stressors. Number 9, don't let death change you or your family, except for the better. If it changes you for the better, then that's wonderful. But don't let death come in and rob your family of something that you might have had before. And I thank God that did not happen and is not happening in our family. Because, there's division in death where people say, well, daddy wanted me to have this, or mama wanted me to have that, or mama said this, or daddy or mama would have wanted me this, or my, don't let death, don't be greedy in death, and don't let death change your family, like I say, except for the better. If you draw closer, that's awesome. If you're already close, don't let death divide you. And I just thank God that the same closeness that we have, or the same closeness that we had before my dad's passing, we still have even now. Even though it's fresh, my dad just passed away less than 10 days ago, but I know in that area we're good, and I don't see that changing anytime in the future. And number 10, I really just have ... because it's fresh. My dad, like I say, just passed October 22nd. The funeral was just October 27th. So what was that? Maybe 4 days ago, the funeral. So I'm still in the ... stage, if you know what that means. That means I don't know what's coming next. I don't know when the next time I'm going to bust out crying. I don't know how bad I'm going to miss him. I know I'm going to miss him greatly. The other night, I was just sitting on the side of the bed crying, and my husband just embraced me. He said, "You miss him?" He said, "I know you miss him." And I didn't say anything because I didn't really feel like talking. But in my mind, I was thinking, no, I don't miss him yet. Because if my dad hadn't passed, I'd easily go a week, maybe sometimes 2. But by that second week, I'm like, I got to go see my dad. But I was thinking, no, I don't miss him yet, because he has been gone long enough to miss him. But I miss the idea that I'm going to miss him. I miss the idea that I can't call him anymore, or I can't go see him anymore. So right now I'm just missing the idea of him. I'm not quite missing him yet, because it's only been, if he was alive and well, like I said, I might not see him in a week or 2. But I miss the idea that I'll never kiss him again. That he's the only one in the world that calls me Dee Dee. And I'll never hear him say Dee Dee again. I'll never discuss the Bible with him again and discuss God's word. My dad is a Bible historian, and he loves God's word, and he loves God. And I'll never get that Bible knowledge from him again. I'll never have those Sunday school discussions and those Bible discussions and those history discussions and him talking about Job and Daniel. And I miss the idea of all of that. But he hasn't been gone long enough for me to really miss him. So anyways, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway, I know this video is so long, and I'm thinking about maybe cutting it down, or maybe I won't. I might just put the whole, 40 minutes up here. And those who are still with me at the end, thank you. I just encourage you to love on your loved ones. And thank you all. I thank you all for being a blessed one. I really appreciate you guys. Appreciate those that are in your that are close to you. Show your appreciation, tell your appreciation. I know my daddy loved his girls, and we loved him. I'm just gonna leave y'all with this last thing. When you say, what thought do I have most about my dad? What one particular action or whatever? This is what I have. This is the action that I think of most when I think of my dad. Even when my dad was alive, I always thought about this. My dad was a pastor. He was a pastor, and he always wore his suits to church on Sunday. And and I was a member of his. This was before I was married, and I was a member of his church. And after church, we would always go to my mom and dad's house for dinner. And my dad, it was known, anybody who knew my dad knew that on Sundays, his modus operandi was to go to church, come home, we would have dinner, and he'd laugh and talk with his girls. He'd take off his jacket, and he'd watch football, but he would never take off anything else. He'd just take off his jacket, and by the time when football is over or sometime later that night, he's gonna go to Walmart. And usually the grandkids or somebody is gonna go with him, or Danica, so they could put stuff in the basket and get whatever they want. So one Sunday, we go to my mom's house and we're eating dinner, and I have to go to work. I have to be at work at 5:30. So it's storming. I mean, torrential rains. I mean, y'all, storming. So my dad walks me to the front door, and he's like, "Oh, Dee Dee, it's raining." He said, "Storming." He said, "You can't go out there all day." Well, Dad, I gotta get to work. He said, "Well, hold on, let me go get your truck." So my dad goes and he takes off his suit. Mind you now, like I said, my dad's routine is he never takes off his suit on Sundays because he wears his suits to Walmart later that evening. My dad takes off his suit and put on his swim trunks. And he goes out into the storm and gets my truck and drives it around to the back of their house that has a covered carport and puts my car under the covered carport. And then he tells me, "Come on, Dee Dee, you can get into," and then he brings the umbrella and he's like, "Here, there's your umbrella so you can take to work with you." And I just kissed my dad. I can just remember kissing my dad and said, "Oh my goodness, Daddy, the man who marries me, he has something to live up to." And my dad said, "That's right, he sure does." And of course, this was before I met Charles, or before, not before I met him, but before we got married. And I must say that the man I married, he had lived up to and beyond all expectations. So, Daddy, thank you for teaching me how I'm supposed to be treated by a man and raising the bar of expectation to know that I am worthy to be loved and deserve to have the best. Thank you, Daddy. I love you. Thank y'all for listening to this long video. Y'all be blessed.
Am I your favorite? Am I your favorite child? That's around 12. Chance right there. You can whisper to me. You don't want me to get jealous. No, we won't tell them. Alright. I'm his favorite. I'm gonna give y'all a secret. He's my favorite dad.